And so these guys have learned really under the new wave of coaching. And so I think that you are going to see things that are a lot more, to use that word again, unpredictable than what we saw from the Jaguars the last 2 years.
So 5th overall pick, and tomorrow we will break down the Dolphins, their needs, and where things might go for them. That's going to do it for us here on Florida Live. We appreciate you joining us this afternoon. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 2.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, good afternoon to you, and welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Monday afternoon, live on fox35orlando.com, Fox Local, and also on YouTube. It is 4 o'clock. That means it's time for today's Top 4 at 4, where we break down 4 of the big stories that we're tracking in the Fox 35 newsroom. And joining me this afternoon for today's Top 4 at 4 is Fox 35 News anchor LuAnne Sorrell. And LuAnne, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So the big news coming early this morning, and that is the death of Pope Francis.
Yes, passed away this morning at the age of 88. You know, he had just spoken to people in Italy on Easter Sunday. There he is. He spoke to people. He drove around in the Pope Mobile in Italy for a while. Just a sad situation. One day after Easter, Pope Francis has passed away, and now we know the cause of death. They say he had a stroke this morning, which caused him to go into a coma, which led to heart failure. We know he has been pretty sick over the past few months. He was in the hospital, I believe, 38 days with pneumonia in both of his lungs. He finally was able to come home back to the Vatican a few days ago. And then this happens, unfortunately.
And you could tell, you know, watching some of that video from yesterday, you know he's not, you can tell he's not in great health. But to be able to be there and be part of that, you know, kind of Easter celebration, I think meant a lot to a lot of people. We've seen reaction pour in today from all around the world. And the Diocese of Orlando today, Bishop John Noonan talked about some of Pope Francis's reforms and how he'll be remembered.
His mandate was to reform the church, not the church per se, but the curia. It would be like what's happening in Washington right now. And he probably did the same thing that's happening in Washington right now. He caused chaos because he didn't go with the formality. He asked bishops and cardinals to know what they were doing, and they were to serve the people. Because we saw a whole different response. When I write a letter to Rome, I get a response within a week. I wrote a letter to Rome 10 years ago. It could take a month. So, you know, you found that they were there to serve you, the church, the curia, the different congregations. So that was a thing I think that people didn't realize. And that's not his personality, but he was very stubborn about it. If you read any of his documents at Christmas when he addressed the curia, you think at Christmas time that it would be a nice time. It was like, what are you doing? Are you working? Are you taking care of the people? You know, he was very demanding in that sense to them.
We also heard from the bishop, the archbishop, I believe, in Miami, and who was speaking earlier today and saying that he felt like that it was almost intentional by the Pope really to hold on through Easter weekend.
Such an important holiday.
Yeah, before kind of, letting go and after the long fight that he has been through with his health in recent weeks.
Yeah, and when you hear from people talking about him, he was a Pope of the people. He cared about the people and marginalized people specifically, the poor, immigrants. He talked about climate change. He really was a different kind of Pope, and I think it really resonated with a lot of people.
We talked earlier today with Evan Axelbank from Fox 13 Tampa Bay, who had the chance to meet the Pope back in 2019 after getting married, and he talked about how he, they're standing in this line along with folks, and every person just really felt seen and heard by him. It wasn't going through the motions and just doing what, but to your point, a Pope of the people, he seem to genuinely care, and those are marks that he's left on people that they'll always remember.
Absolutely, and we're hearing that the conclave to pick a new pope could start as soon as next week already. So all the bishops will be descending on the Vatican and see who's the next pope. Yeah,
we've got a lot of good information on fox35orlando.com about kind of what happens next with that process, because that will be ramping up soon. A big story in Orlando today as well, and that is a plane catching fire on the tarmac. Pretty scary situation.
Super scary when you see this video. I actually was landing at OIA, Garrett.
Were you really?
When I saw Fox Locals pop up on my phone, a plane on fire in Orlando, and I was like, what? But it happened a few hours before I actually touched down. Super scary pictures you can see here. An engine caught on fire on this plane, and then all the passengers on board, we were told there were 282 passengers and 10 flight attendants and 2 pilots. They all had to take the emergency slide, that inflatable emergency slide, to get off the plane. All the passengers were put on another plane and they continued on to Atlanta. But not what you want to see when you're at the airport about to take a flight to Atlanta or anywhere else, and then you see this engine on fire. It's just really bizarre. It had just pushed back from the gate, and then the engine, there's flames coming out of the engine. Of course, they're going to, investigate and see why, but it just seems really odd. It didn't hit a bird. It wasn't up in the air. It was just, taxiing.
And we've talked to a couple different experts today who said that the way that, obviously we still don't know what exactly caused this, but they said that because of where that fire was, it's likely something that potentially would only happen in that situation as they're kind of just getting going, just pushing back from the gate. So that's something to watch. The other thing to watch with the investigation is the evacuation, because we've heard some different things from passengers and witnesses about maybe only one of those slides working and some things like that they had to wait for a staircase. But it was a scary situation. Fox 35's Randy Hildreth had the chance to speak with one of those passengers on board who kind of talked about what it was like on board as all this was happening.
The middle section nears the emergency exit, there was like a big orange, I'm not going to say explosion, it's just like a big light. And everyone that was in that section on the right-hand side jumped. And the flight attendant that was by that exit door, I don't know if she was trying to open it or close it, but at the point she was telling everybody to sit down. And then seconds after that, she immediately says, get off the plane. So that ensued panic. Everyone just panicked and everyone took off trying to get off. The only thing was nothing on that side, because that's where the fire was on the right-hand side. Those exit doors didn't work, so that only left 2 on the other side. But out of the 2, only 1 had a functioning floating slide. The other slide that was at the back rear, it was not working. It wasn't plated. So everyone, including me and my family that was going towards the back door, we were instructed to move up front. Everyone was not getting off the plane fast enough. All of us couldn't get off, and so we were stuck there. And by the time they extinguished the fire, they told us to just wait on the plane until they could bring the air stairs to the back exit. Had that been a huge explosion, we would have been stuck on that plane. I'm just going to be completely honest. The staff did the best that they could, but there was so many panicking. People weren't moving fast enough, and then trying to stuff everyone on the entire plane out of one door, it wasn't feasible.
So You can understand the anxiety and the panic that would kind of ensue in a situation like that, especially you look out the window and you see those flames, you see that smoke.
Yeah, get me out of here, right?
Yeah. Story number 3, and that is a federal judge ordering a stop to immigrant arrests in Florida under the state's new immigration law.
Yeah, just to get people up to speed, if you're not familiar, it's now illegal to enter the state of Florida if you're an undocumented immigrant. A federal judge earlier this month said, wait, put a stop to that. And apparently law enforcement didn't listen. They had arrested 15 people within just the past 2 weeks. And then Friday, there was another hearing. And this federal judge said she was absolutely astonished that they did not halt these arrests after she said stop doing it. But then State Attorney General Meyer there told law enforcement, stop making arrests of undocumented immigrants until we get all of this figured out and determine if that new state law is actually going to move forward or if it's going to be ruled unconstitutional. We'll still have to, wait and see what comes from this.
Yeah, a lot of questions. I know that was something that was raised during debate of this in the special session, right. Whether this would end up standing. They certainly expected legal challenges, and I think some lawmakers welcomed legal challenges, saying we can be the test case for this. So it's certainly something to watch closely moving forward. And finally here, a Florida gator wrangler had a much more eventful Easter than I know I did.
Yeah, such a Florida story, right? The blue collar brawler at it again. He was actually having dinner with his family, and he got an emergency call that there was a 7 to 8 foot gator in this woman's yard up in Jacksonville. So he, of course, went right there to the scene, no shoes on. He had no equipment because he was at Easter dinner. And so he said, no problem, I'll just use the trash can. So he gets the gator to go into the trash can, removed him there, and she's so happy that the gator is gone. She gives him a high five.
I think I would be glad too that it was taken care of. But yeah, I love that. No equipment, no nothing. Doesn't even matter.
Okay.
He's ready at any point to step in.
Barefoot and all.
Barefoot and all. And the blue collar brawler was actually on Good Day Orlando Extra this morning.
This instance, this lady let her dog out to go to the bathroom, and she saw this huge tail slither by her patio. And she reached out. It was pitch black. It was a brand new development on the north side. It had obviously the PVC fence, but on the back it was a regular fence. And the gator must have climbed that construction fence to get over. There was no other way to get in this backyard. So pretty crazy that, that it could have been her dog that night, but luckily she saw it, reached out to FWC. I am a licensed trapper, so they dispatched me. I came out and got the job done. But I was with my family at an Easter dinner, which is why I just had to load up and go. And I didn't have my proper equipment, but I still stayed safe, and we got the job done. As always, baby.
So quite an Easter celebration
right there. Quite the Florida man. Yeah, that is so cool. He's always like on the job and so like gung-ho. But yeah, that was a feisty gator. He wasn't going down without a fight.
Impressive work there. Well, that is today's Top Forward for LuAnne. We appreciate you joining us. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back. getting ready to come back in 5 seconds.
Okay.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Department. Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus, a live look at the St. Cloud Police Department, where we expect a news conference any minute now to announce an arrest in a cold case murder that goes back 33 years. When that begins, we will bring it to you live here on Fox 35 News Plus. But Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Noah Berggren joins me now. And Noah, we appreciate you joining us. Hope you had a nice Easter weekend.
Weather was great. I don't know how you felt, but
it was perfect.
Awesome to be outside.
Yeah, it was great. I did spend a lot of time outside, and I'm glad I did because, I mean, you couldn't have asked for much better.
Did you guys do anything fun this weekend, or just kind of hung around?
Did a lot of work outside, did a lot of yard work on Saturday, and then Sunday just kind of hung out a little bit.
Yeah, you know, and Garrett, what we had this weekend will be around for really the foreseeable future. And, you know, heading into the weekend coming, it's going to get a lot hotter. And in fact, the temperatures are going to probably challenge records by late this coming weekend. Here's the forecast pattern through June 1st. It's really not going to change much. I mean, it may waffle a little bit, but the idea is the jet stream dives from about Seattle to Dallas, then cuts across the heartland up to New England. And that means very active and wet weather from the plains, the Midwest, the Great Lakes in northern New England, and very dry weather relative to average over the Caribbean, Florida, and the Deep South. And we're already running huge rain deficits, and they will only grow before getting better. We hope at some point in June, but you know, this is nothing unprecedented. I want to make that clear. I don't want to make this sound, you know, like the sky is falling. And here's why. We get droughts in Florida. We have no shortage of history with droughts here. Some years they're a lot worse than others. Some years they're really, really impactful. But this is something that happens common, where the dry season extends a lot longer through spring and the rainy season starts later. And this is definitely one of those years. The average rain by month in April is about 2.5 inches. We've barely even had an inch in some spots this April. May it jumps to 4, and then by June it jumps to 8. So just statistically playing the numbers, the average rain will jump up quite a bit over the coming few months. The average for the entire year in Central Florida at MCO is about 52 inches. You see there in the top left. But notice in the rainy season, we average about 8 inches of rain per month, June, July, and August. So at some point, statistically, it will rain. Now, there have been years where the rainy season has only been like 3 or 4 inches of rain, which that could mean a really, really, really prolific fire season even into summer, which we don't see that often. Don't think this will be the case this year because we're going to be in neither El Nino or La Nina for the summer, and that generally means that it will rain more at some point. So it's not going to last forever, but at least for the next few weeks, the lack of rain is still a headline for us in the forecast. It's dry out there right now, and temperatures sitting at about 89 in Orlando. It's 90 in Bushnell, 417 on this Monday. Thanks for joining us, by the way, on Fox Local and on the website and on the apps. 79 Titusville, New Smyrna, 81 Daytona Beach, 87 DeLand, 87 Leesburg, 89 The Villages, 88 in Ocala, 82 in Palm Coast, 87 in Bithlo, 86 in Kissimmee, and a little bit of a sea breeze, just 79, Palm Bay, Mico, and the Melbourne area. All right, so temperatures across the country, a lot of warmth outside of really Wisconsin and western Michigan, where they're stuck in the 40s thanks to a north wind, and the lake is still really cold. But notice Minneapolis, 54, Chicago, about 51, a little bit of a north wind off the lake. 75 Columbus, Ohio, 68 in Lexington, Kentucky, 72 in Nashville, 84 in Houston, 79 in Dallas, out west, 79 in Vegas, 67 in LA, 51 in Portland, out east we're about 51, Boston, New York, 82 in Raleigh, then sitting nicely at least into the 80s right now. I'm not really sure why Orlando's temperature, maybe it just changed. The heat index there should be higher than 87, at least currently for us right now. outside. So over the next week, Garrett, the forecast, the only change is it's going to get hotter. I just made this. This is the fresh off the press 7-day. I'll get it out of the way so you can see it. We're talking about hotter air tomorrow. So today we're about 89-ish. Tomorrow about 91. So a little hotter tomorrow, about 90 Wednesday. Temps will come down a few degrees Thursday, Friday, but it's still going to be hot. A little breezy Friday. A warm front goes by. Then the weekend gets hot. 90 Saturday, 93 Sunday. Some data suggests high 90s. I don't buy it, but we'll see. Don't be shocked if we get closer, if this Sunday forecast becomes like a 95 or a 96 for Sunday. But right now, we'll be a little conservative with the forecast by hand and just put a 93 there. 92 next Monday. These are the days that'll get close to records for their dates. A little bit early in the year to have mid-90s in the Orlando area. But notice, at least in the city and in the I-4 corridor, no chance of any rain. At our East Coast beaches, a great beach weekend ahead. Temperatures will finally poke into the mid-80s by Sunday. Now notice here there is a teeny chance of a passing shower coming in off the Atlantic this weekend. Brevard County beaches, the Space Coast beaches, but it's only 10%. But the winds at the beaches will be a bigger impact further into the week. It'll be gusty with east winds 10 to 25 miles an hour all the way through Saturday, and those winds will subside a little bit at the beaches for Sunday and Monday. So if you're looking ahead to the weekend, Garrett, the idea is maybe an early season trip to the water park with the kids, maybe with the family. Yeah. If you're trying to think of something to do, you know, not often you've got July level heat. Right. In the end of April, but if you're looking maybe a pool or a beach, definitely this weekend is great. But I want to stress too, one thing I didn't mention, Garrett, is that while we'll have July temperatures, we still won't have July humidity even this weekend. So, you know, we still got a long way to go in the humidity department, but the temperature, yeah, it'll feel like midsummer, but there won't be that, you know, tropical gross heat index that lasts well into the night. You know, and it still feels like 95 at 10 p.m. We won't have that quite yet anytime soon.
Still not quite as miserable heat.
Correct. Yeah, much more tolerable 93 than it will be in July and August.
Okay, that is some good news there. That beach forecast looking good. I like the looks of that one.
Oh yeah. You know, the surfers were having a grand little time, I'm sure, this weekend. It was pretty choppy with the beach week. I don't know if you saw the story. I think we ran it last night as I watched it. Sunday night 10 with the dog surfers.
Yeah.
In Brevard County. Yeah, that was a big thing. So, you know, it'll be good surfing weather this week. Anytime the wind is perpendicular to the Space Coast like it is this week, and you got a long wave period, it's pretty good surfing. So I'm sure there's a lot of surfers, at least locally, who are pretty happy with the next 7 days.
All right, Fox 35
I'm
Storm.
not one of them.
You're not? Oh, come on. Have you ever tried it? No, not your thing, huh?
Maybe we'll take that up this summer, but yeah, you know, we'll see.
In the meantime, sticking to pickleball. Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Noah Berggren, we appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, sir.
We're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus, another live look inside the St. Cloud Police Department, where we expect a news conference to begin in the next few minutes, announcing an arrest in a cold case of murder from 1991. A 72-year-old man now facing charges in this case. We'll bring that news conference to you live when it begins here on Fox 35 News Plus. In the meantime, Congressman Maxwell Frost, a Democrat from Florida's 10th District, is in El Salvador. He joined several other Democratic U.S. representatives in the country, speaking on behalf of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, an immigrant from Maryland who they claim was mistakenly deported last month. Now, the Trump administration has pushed back on that, saying that Abrego Garcia is a member of the MS-13 gang. He is not charged with any gang-related crimes yet. Now, the U.S. Supreme Court has ordered the Trump administration to facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia to the U.S., but the White House has said they will not. Congressman Frost also claims the El Salvador government denied their formal request to meet today with Abrego Garcia. He spoke at a news conference just a little bit ago.
Well, look, Robert said why we're here, and we're here because we believe that the rule of law should be followed by everyone, including the President of the United States. And we're in a situation where the administration has sent someone here to El Salvador by mistake, admitted to it. A Supreme Court decision has come down to say you need to facilitate the return of this man back to the United States so he can go through due process. And the administration is saying, no, we're not going to do it. In fact, we just had a meeting earlier today with the embassy, and we left that meeting with absolutely zero indication that this administration has is going to facilitate or wants to facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia back to the United States so he can go through due process. But we got to be clear, this isn't just about him. This is also about every single person in the United States. The Constitution applies to all people in our country. Due process applies to all people in our country. It's one of the things that sets our country apart from other places across the entire world. And so we're worried, of course, we demand the release of Abrego Garcia, but we're also worried about our own constituents. We represent people across the entire nation. I'm from Orlando, Florida. A community filled with immigrants, a diverse community. And we're getting hundreds and hundreds of calls. People saying, go to El Salvador, do something. Do something about the fact that the President of the United States in the Oval Office is talking about sending U.S. citizens here to El Salvador, to the prison here. And so we don't want to wait till things get worse. We're here to build off of the work of Senator Van Hollen, who heroically came down here and showed his family and the world for the first time since he was taken down here that he is alive, that he was alive, and he was well at that time. And so what we want to know is, where is he at now? What is his condition now? His family deserves to know. The people deserve to know, but we're also here to make a statement that this cannot be allowed and isn't allowed in our country. And people should know we're not the first here. We're not going to be the last members of Congress to be here in El Salvador fighting and demanding the return of Abrego Garcia and a lot of the folks who were sent here without due process at all. It is one of the core tenets of our country and our Constitution, and we're going to fight like hell to make sure he comes back home to have due process there, but that this doesn't happen to anybody else.
My name is Chris Newman. I'm a Los Angeles-based lawyer. I'm here today on behalf of Kilmar Abrego Garcia's family and as their legal counsel to demand his access to rights. I came here to El Salvador, and I should say first and foremost, I want to thank the Congressional delegation standing behind me for their bravery, for their leadership, and for their action in coming down here despite the uncertainty to try to liberate Mr. Abrego Garcia. I came here with three distinct goals in mind. Number one, to ensure that Mr. Abrego Garcia is in fact alive today. Number two, to make sure that he is healthy and safe. And then number three, to ensure that he has access to counsel and to his family as is required by international law. We know nothing of Mr. Abrego Garcia's whereabouts since the staged photo op on Thursday with Senator Van Hollen.
That was at a news conference. So we heard at first from Maxwell Frost, congressman from our area, in that news conference in El Salvador. He was also on Fox News just a few minutes ago as well, talking about the same situation. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back. Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Let's go ahead and listen in as St. Cloud police discuss an arrest in a cold case murder from 1991.
The St. Cloud Police Department responded to a homicide near Neptune Road, approximately 1/2 mile west of Kissimmee Park Road, now known as Old Canoe Creek Road. There, we discovered the body of 27-year-old Julia Sue Wilbanks, who had been brutally stabbed approximately 17 times, including fatal wounds to her heart. Despite exhaustive investigative efforts at the time, interviews, forensic analysis, and the collection of physical evidence, including male DNA on the victim's clothing, no viable suspects were identified. The case eventually went cold, but it was never forgotten. In 2012, our department committed to solving this case, re-engaged the investigation with the help of DNA Labs International. Through advancement in forensic science and genetic genealogy, we uploaded the suspect's DNA profile into national databases. Over the next several years, genealogical analysis helped us narrow the pool of possible suspects by identifying familial connections. In early 2025, this investigation led us to a primary suspect, Gene A. Stuller, S-T-U-L-L-E-R, a white male born April 23, 1952. Historical records placed Stuller living near Julia Wilbanks' last known residence in Kissimmee at the time of the homicide. In March of this year, our detectives conducted surveillance and successfully obtained a discarded item, a straw containing Stuller's DNA. Subsequent forensic testing confirmed a conclusive match to the male DNA recovered from the victim's clothing. To illustrate the strength of this evidence, it is 1.9 trillion times more likely that the DNA came from Gene A. Stuller than from an unrelated individual. I'll say that again, 1.9 trillion times more likely. Statistically, the probability of a coincidental match was approximately 1 in 930 septillion. With this information, our detectives submitted an arrest warrant, which was signed by the Honorable Judge Eric Dubois. Mr. Stuller has been charged with second-degree murder and disturbing a dead body or associated articles. This case represents not just the power of persistence in science, but the unwavering commitment of this department to honor victims and serve their families, even when justice takes time. To the family of Julia Sue Wilbanks, we recognize your pain, your loss, and your long wait. Today, we take meaningful steps toward closure and accountability. We will continue to stand with you. Let this also serve as a message to our community. The St. Cloud Police Department will never stop seeking justice. Cold cases are never forgotten. Thank you. We'll take some questions if you have any.
33 or so years later, how do your investigators, detectives, everybody continue pushing forward? At some point, it's got to feel like you're just battling uphill.
I will tell you, we're blessed with the staff that's here. Our detectives did an amazing job on this. Yes, they are cold cases. Sometimes we have very, very few leads. However, they're constantly reevaluated, especially with the new and emerging technology. And I will tell you, we have young and eager detectives, very, very talented, very qualified. And I will tell you, that's how this really came to fruition.
Do you think without this technology, he would have gotten away with this?
Well, he's been living his life, to be honest with you. We found him up in a Popka, I believe, correct? So he's been living his life in a Popka ever since this crime has occurred, pretty much staying under the radar. If I'm not mistaken, I think he had a few different charges, some DUIs, I believe, but nothing major that would have really brought him up onto the radar for anything. So yes, I believe that this technology, as it becomes more perfected, and especially where we are right now, this is a game changer for law enforcement. We always talk about that technology and partnership and investigations, absolute game changer.
Has he said, or has he said to investigators why he never turns himself in, or why he just let it just go under the radar?
So that's subject to the investigation. He's here currently being interviewed, so I don't have all that information as of yet. But there's clearly more to follow on this case. But I will tell you, it's almost impossible to argue with the facts here, and specifically to how his blood would have been on the victim's clothing. It's, you know, I said it again, 1.9 trillion times more likely that the DNA came from Mr. Stuller than another individual. So that's staggering. The numbers are staggering. So we feel confident he was there, whether he participated in the homicide, but he was certainly at that location.
Do we know how many cold cases is St. Cloud working right now with this? I mean, you described a 30-year-old case. Is it safe to say that these are all now warmer than cold, I guess?
Yeah, so we actually have 2 cold cases right now that they're constantly being reevaluated over and over again. Every time new technology comes out, every time we get a success, every time we get a win for something like this, we consistently look to reapply those methods to see if we miss something. We're constantly doing case reviews. Obviously, St. Cloud is a fast-growing city. We're ranked one of the safest cities in the state right now, 37th in the nation. We will do everything we can to bring bad people to justice. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Sorry.
This genealogical breakthrough, do you have an idea? It might be more for the lab to answer this one, but we'll see. Was this able to track down different family members that had submitted trying to trace back their lineage and they're in this database, or was it from criminal DNA obtained that way? Do you have an idea?
So usually it comes through familial DNA, and what happens usually they will come up with a pool of potential people based on the DNA profile that's collected through the genealogy, those type of databases. So when we get those, then we can actually start to lock down. And I will tell you, this is merely a tool. This is not something that we just say, hey, we have this, we're going to go use this, and now we have enough for an arrest warrant. So there's more to come. So we do investigative work. So basically, we get something that says it's either this person or this person based on the lineage, based on the X chromosomes, things like that. And then we start looking, we dig a little bit deeper. What's this guy's history and background? Has he been in Osceola County? Has he lived in Kissimmee before? And that's usually how we start to drive these things to conclusion. So there's a lot more. It's simply a tool that we use to ensure that we're on the right path. And then that does take some potential surveillance, like you heard here. Surreptitious grab on something that he was touching. So then we use that, we send that to the lab too for analysis. So that's usually the basis of how these work.
The tool to generate a new lead when you're running out of leads.
Always, always.
And to be clear, he was arrested in Apopka.
That's correct. That's correct.
Just to be extra clear, the DNA, that's strong. So it was a match between that DNA and the blood stain that was found on the shorts?
Yes. Yes.
Was he arrested as part of a joint anything with Apopka PD, or did you guys make the trip up?
So we work with Orange County Sheriff's Office, their fugitive unit, to help us with it. We passed them the warrant. They actually went and picked him up and then brought him to us for an interview. All right, thank you, everybody.
That is St. Cloud Police Chief Doug Gerke announcing the arrest of 72-year-old Jean Stuller, who you see on your screen there, charged with second-degree murder in the death of Julia Sue Wilbanks. She was 27 years old at the time when she was her body was found in September of 1991. Investigators say she had been stabbed 17 times. There were no suspects identified at the time, but in the past few years, or in the recent time, new technology that has come out that has helped solve a number of cold cases. That was the situation certainly in this case, where police were able to submit crime scene DNA to databases, and they identified Gene Stuller as a suspect back in March. He has been arrested, charged with second-degree murder and disturbing a dead body or clothing article nearby. He is a man who lives in Apopka, and officials say, investigators said he had been living there, just kind of basically staying under the radar for all of these years. But an arrest in a cold case murder stemming back 33 years to 1991. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we will be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer. Thanks for joining us on this Monday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Hundreds of tires have been polluting the Indian River Lagoon, but some new efforts are ramping up to get them out of there. Fox 35's Esther Bauer joins us live now via Zoom. And Esther, what's the situation there? It sounds like some big work getting underway.
Yeah, some heavy lifting with these tires. So what we have been able to learn from the nonprofit Waterway Warriors is that these tires were originally put into this island just off Cocoa Beach in the Indian River in the 70s. And they were put there to try to stabilize the shoreline, keep any storms from taking away the mangroves and the sand. Well, hurricanes came through and the tires did not stick around for long. They became scattered just all underneath the water, underneath the sand, all over this what's now being called Tire Island just off Cocoa Beach. And when you say hundreds, we're talking about upwards of 500 tires that were at this site for 50 years. Now we have this group of, on the screen you can see them. It's pretty striking to see. We went out by boat and got to see it up close for ourselves. But now we have a group of volunteers from the community really ramping up the goal to remove all of these tires. So far, they have removed 321 tires. There's about 200 to 300 more still there on that island, and they have a date set in May to go back out there with volunteers and boats to, put them onto boats and get them out of the water. But it's just pretty striking to think about them sitting there for 50 years. And we, talk about a lot of stuff seeping into the waterway when it comes to fertilizer, grass, plants, other things that really don't belong there. But tires, Garrett, are not something that I would think about as to hurting the Indian River. So that is a project underway, and it's cool because it's being led totally by volunteers, people in the community coming out on a Saturday morning for this first cleanup and taking shovels, taking pitchforks, really using a lot of strength to try and move these tires. And what you're seeing now, this video, is they've been able to pile up all the rest of them. When they originally went out there, they were scattered everywhere along this island. So now they're in this piled up status. And in that next cleanup, which is set for May, they're going to go in there and be able to get all of the rest of the hundreds of tires.
Esther, I've got a couple of questions, and the first one is where did they come from? Was it just a popular dumping spot for those tires?
So there's a lot of tales of the tires, and they've been there for so long. But what fishermen have told this nonprofit group is they were placed there by the county back in the 70s to try to stabilize the shoreline. So it wasn't they did serve a actual purpose. And so it wasn't just all people going out and finding an island to dump tires. I think over the years that has happened, but originally there was just a mass placement of tires. They were trying to, keep the island from getting hurt from storms, but the tires didn't, really serve their purpose. And now since they've gotten into the waterway, they're just seeping out rubber, plastics, a lot of toxins from tires. And I don't know if you can see in this video, but it's very striking. The area where tires are just on the shoreline. So that is a mangrove that is actually living, but also right nearby where all those tires are, it's killed off all of that. So what they're really, right over, let's see if that picks it up. It stops a little short, but oh yeah, right there you can kind of see wherever the tires have been piled up, everything is just dead. It is this dead zone. And so what they're really trying to do is get that out and see, can this island come back? Can we see mangroves grow? Can we see some wildlife come back? Because it's really killed off everything that they have smothered.
Why hadn't something been done before now? Why is it up to this nonprofit group?
That is a good question. So this is a pretty small but mighty group, Waterway Warriors. They go in and they really try to do the dirty cleanup projects, whether that is cleaning up the causeways or in this situation, cleaning up tires. But they had some fishermen reach out to them. They're a pretty newly formed nonprofit, and they don't really turn the other way. They say if there's a problem and it has to do with the water, we're going to get involved. So they started reaching out to many partners, many players in this situation. It took them about 6 months to get all the parts together, but they were ultimately the ones that were notified of it. It was kind of a rumor mill for quite a bit of time. Like we said, fishermen talked about it. People that go out in the waterway always saw it. But as far as actually taking that step to, all right, we need to identify this is a serious problem. We need to get bodies out there to try to move them, and we need to find a place for all of these tires. It was this Waterway Warriors group that said we're going to get involved. Something else I loved about how they are getting rid of all these tires, they're not just dumping them in our Brevard County landfill, they are recycling them. They were able to tap into some grant money from Brevard County, and they're able to get these 500 tires recycled in a way where they're not just, releasing toxins into the waste system or just sitting there and kind of bogging down the landfill.
That's great news. So what's the next step in the process? What's the status of this? How are things going, and what's next?
Yeah, so we have May 17th is actually set for what they're anticipating to be the final cleanup. They will have about 25 or so volunteers come back out to this site, and where you can see all those piles, they're ready to be put onto a boat and taken to the recycling location. So that is step number one. And then step number two is really going to be restoring and rehabbing this site. So Waterway Warriors is going to work with some scientists, going to work with some researchers to really understand, hey, can we plant some stuff here? Can we bring in some oysters, some clams, some mangroves? What can we do to bring this island back to life. So they are looking for volunteers to be able to restore the island, but they want to make sure whatever project that they do is going to be the right move for the space. So definitely studying it, bringing in some local researchers to really figuring out, okay, once the toxins are gone, how can we move forward with something better?
All right, good stuff there. Love to see that cleanup underway and progress being made when it comes to Tire Island. So
50 years in the making, absolutely.
Yeah, all right. Fox 35's Esther Bauer, we appreciate you joining us on Fox 35 News Plus.
Awesome, and we'll talk with you guys soon.
All right, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back to Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Monday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. The NFL Draft kicks off on Thursday in Green Bay, Wisconsin, at Lambeau Field, the home of the Green Bay Packers. And so all this week, we're going to be taking a look at Florida's NFL teams and what they need, what they'll be looking for in the draft. And we're also going to take a look at some players with Florida connections who have good prospects of being taken in the draft as well. So we start today with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have the 5th overall pick in the draft, and we'll make that pick on Thursday night. So earlier today, we spoke with Tim Walters, who is the sports editor of the Florida Times-Union and Florida Today, to break down what the Jags need to do with the upcoming draft.
10 draft picks, which is quite a few, and they have 11 next year. So they're going to be looking to fill a lot of holes as they have a new general manager in James Gladstone and a new head coach in Liam Cohn. Their needs are many. They pretty much could pick anything from any position except maybe quarterback. I think they're going to key in on the defense to start, though. I have a few numbers that are kind of eye-popping from their defense last year. Last year, they gave up the most yards in the league of any team by more than 150 yards over the next worst team, which is the Baltimore Ravens. So they were pretty bad there. Only 4 teams gave up more touchdowns than the Jaguars did, and only 2 teams, the Browns and the Giants, had fewer interceptions. The Jaguars only had 6 interceptions in 17 games last year, which is terrible. They had the 5th fewest sacks. That's kind of surprising considering you have Josh Hines Allen and Trayvon Walker. And then Eric Armstead, of course, in his first year with the Jags. A little bit of a disappointment. Of course, he was coming off a meniscus injury. They were playing him in a place where he doesn't normally play. So I think they're going to be looking at defense early on. The other spot that they might look at, and I don't think it will be there when they get to their number 5 draft pick, is on the offensive line. So I think what they're ultimately going to do is they will take Mason Graham, who is the edge rusher out of Michigan. I think that that's going to be that third piece that they're looking for to pressure the quarterback. It's something that Liam Cohen likes to do a lot. As I mentioned on offensive line, they would love to get Will Campbell, but he'll probably go number 4 to the New England Patriots because they have a young quarterback that they're also trying to protect over there, just like the Jaguars want to do for Trevor Lawrence. If the Jaguars weren't going to go with Mason Graham, there's a few different avenues that they could go. One might be another guy out of Michigan, and he's a defensive back because they certainly need help in the secondary, and that's Will Johnson. They also could surprise some people and take Ashton Jeanty, the running back out of Boise State. He's projected to go really high. He's a guy from the Jacksonville area, and of course, Travis Etienne is coming off his worst year as a pro in 4 years, and then Tank Bigsby. He never really became the running back yet that they were hoping. Big, bruising, powerful guy. Cut down on his drops last year, his fumbles. But I think that if they wanted to surprise people, they may do that. But I think ultimately you're going to see Mason Graham go off the board at number 5.
So a lot of room for improvement in a lot of different aspects of the Jags game. But what better way to address that when you do have so many draft picks this year and next? So it kind of sets them up if things go right, if they handle this draft the right way, that they could make some improvements.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now, the Jaguars, out of all 32 NFL teams, have the fewest players on their roster right now. So not only are they looking to take a lot of draft picks, you could see a lot of undrafted free agents being signed after the draft. I know that they're looking at that avenue. Look, like I said, William Cohen and James Gladstone, they're looking to get this team younger. These are real analytics guys. They're looking at the numbers. They're crunching all of the minutia. And, this is going to be the youngest duo in the league. When you look at Gladstone, 34 years old, when you look at Cohen, 39 years old. To give you an idea of how young that is, at a combined 73 years old, they are 5 years younger than the current president of the United States. So these guys, they're looking to make a difference, and they have that chance right now. Those 10 draft picks, one in the first round, then they have one in the second round, number 36 overall pick. And if they don't take a cornerback, I would be completely surprised because their secondary has just been just terrible the last couple of years. It got Mike Caldwell, their defensive coordinator from 2 years ago, fired, and it got last year's defensive coordinator fired after 1 year. So they were just really bad. And they like a guy out of Ole Miss who could still be there at the number 36 pick. His name is Trey Amos. And he's 6'1", 195 pounds. At the combine, he posted a 4.43 40-yard dash and a 32.5-inch vertical leap and 10-foot 6-inch broad jump. So, I mean, this is a guy with great athleticism. He was a 5-year college player, so he brings in some experience and could probably start right away. He was with Alabama for a season before Ole Miss, and then he was with Louisiana for 3 years before that. In all, he played 61 games in college. And so this is a guy, he had 4 interceptions. I think he's a really experienced player. So if he's still there, I know that this is one of the guys on their wish list in the second round. And then after that, they have 2 picks in the third round. They have 2 in the fourth, 1 in the fifth, 2 in the sixth, and 1 in the seventh. So there's all sorts of things that they could do with them. But right now, I think that you're going to see defense go off the board early for the Jaguars.
Do you think when this draft is said and done, we will see an approach, or we'll have noticed an approach from this new head coach and GM administration that may be in some ways noticeably different than the previous?
Yeah, these guys, Doug Peterson, he's a very, he's, I guess you could say at this point, he's an old school type of NFL guys. NFL guy. And if you watch what they did last year, both on offense and defense, weren't the most imaginative things that you were going to see. I think that's one thing that led Shad Khan ultimately to firing Doug Peterson. I think he's still a very good head coach, but Shad had mentioned several times in a press conference just how predictable. I think he used the word predictable about a half dozen times. And I think what you get with Liam Cohen is an unpredictability. I mean, if you look at the two places he's been, so he was with the Buccaneers the last couple of years. He helped Baker Mayfield kind of resurrect himself and have, his best years in the NFL, make the playoffs. Before that, he was with the Rams, and that's also where Gladstone was. These guys learn a lot from Sean McVay. They come from a very good coaching tree, and again, McVay, he was kind of the first of this new type of head coach. And so these guys have learned really under the new wave of coaching. And so I think that you are going to see things that are a lot more, to use that word again, unpredictable than what we saw from the Jaguars the last 2 years.
And our NFL draft previews will continue tomorrow when we take a look at the Miami Dolphins and their needs and who they might be looking to select in the upcoming draft that kicks off on a Thursday. Well, that's going to do it for us here on Fox 35 News Plus this afternoon. We appreciate you joining us. I want to give you another live look at the Vatican, where a night has fallen following the death of the Pope Francis. Coming up on Fox 35 News, Morgan Parrish is going to have details on how Orlando is reacting to the Pope's death. We are also following up on the plane fire on the tarmac at MCO. Fox 35's Randy Hildreth getting ready to join us live with an update on that. So I'm going to go ahead and send things out to Studio A here, where Manny and LuAnne are getting ready for the start of Fox 35 News at 5, which begins in just seconds here on Fox Local. We'll be right back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. with more Fox 35 News Plus.
Right now on Fox 35 News at 5.
The wing? There's obviously people on that plane.
A plane goes up in flames moments before taking off from Orlando.
It sounded like a boom.